large, wealthy, suspended African country has switched between military rule and civilian rule. But the military often returned to power through elections and in civilian clothes. General Olusegun Obasanjo, and after him General Muhammad al-Bukhari, were the most prominent military men who ruled the country with civilian suits. Nigeria, which possesses enormous resources, especially oil, is a huge human reservoir. Former President Obasanjo said that every 3 of the blacks in the world, including 1 Nigerian. But despite this, its people suffer from poverty, and the crime spreading across the country adds a calamity that does not fade a little, except to return with a stronger and wider impulse. The demographic composition imposed an anxious demographic map, with the Muslim North and the Christian South. The separatist war of Biafra has been eliminated, but its scars remain deep in our souls. The Boko Haram movement, which does not stop its expansion in the north and crosses the borders towards Chad and Cameroon, has formed a wound that has exhausted the country and obstructed development projects. The Boko Haram group started under the name the Sunnis for Preaching and Jihad Group, then turned into Boko Haram, which means education according to Western curricula is forbidden. Muhammad Yusuf, the founder of the group, called for the application of Islamic law and a complete change in educational curricula, and said that his war in order to achieve the goals of the movement will be long, and will not stop before reaching what it seeks. The movement spread outside Nigeria's borders, joined by young people from Chad and Niger, and it carried out terrorist operations in Cameroon and Chad, and did not stop kidnapping adults and children in various places. The movement has kidnapped hundreds of underage girls, and their liberation was not easy. The movement was founded in 2004 with 200 members of the youth, but it expanded rapidly and began to arm itself, and its activity expanded in more than one region, and in 2014 the movement declared the caliphate in the Goza region in the north of the country. The police began pursuing the organization, launched continuous attacks on it, and killed many of its members, but the movement continued its expansion and terrorist activity, and carried out continuous explosions in various places against the security forces and the army, and pledged allegiance to ISIS and changed its name to the State of West Africa. The extremist terrorist Boko Haram movement is not the only wound that bleeds from the body of the country, but there are wider and more serious wounds. The social formation in Nigeria is complex, the many and different tribes do not stop armed clash between them. The Hausa and Yoruba tribes, which are 2 of the largest tribes in the country, do not stop the clash between them, and often causes hundreds of deaths, as well as between the Yoruba and the Fulani. Clashes between Muslims and Christians break out from neighborhood to neighborhood. The difference is huge and sharp between the threads of the contrasting social fabric in everything. Multiple tribal formations each have their own language, culture, lifestyle, and clothing, and religion remains the largest and most powerful detonator from time to time. The religious division on the ground has formed a de facto separation between regions, as Muslims are concentrated in the north, while Christians live in the south, and even groups belonging to one religion are not without acute disagreement. The tribal structure that unites more than 250 ethnic groups hinders the process of social integration. It creates breaks between the entity community. Everyone complains about everyone for various reasons. There is a state of resentment on the part of various tribal groups about the domination of the Hausa culture over the culture of others in the north of the country. The conflict between Muslims, Christians, and pagans has not stopped since independence. 50% of the Nigerian population is Muslim, 40% Christian, while 10% of the population professes various pagan religions. There is no doubt that the expansion of extremism and terrorism carried out by groups raising Islamic slogans raises fear among Christians and pagans, and currents are emerging among them whose aim is to confront everything that is Islamic, which drives the factors of clash and widens the state of dissonance and social divergence. Muslims do not stop their complaints about what they see as the domination of Christians over the joints of the state and the sources of wealth, while they are suffering from unemployment and poverty. There is a phenomenon in many African countries, which is the domination of Christians over most jobs in government departments, and this is due to the reason that an African country is not without, which is that Muslims did not send their children to schools during colonialism for fear of luring children into the Christian religion, and this led to the percentage of education among generations of Muslims. Christians also have their complaints of a political, cultural, and religious color. They see that democracy has given advantages to the Muslim majority, and they strongly object to the state's presence in Islamic organizations. Nigeria, a large country with its tremendous potential, was able to be an African economic and political tiger comparable to that of South Africa, but the complexity resulting from the wide social disparity impeded the country's movement and halted its progress. The rentier, oil-dependent economy has distorted the country's economic structure, and it led to widespread corruption and poverty, and this led to an alarming spread of crime and a lack of security throughout the country. In these days, Nigeria is experiencing another crisis that has led to widespread violence, as the country is in a state of chaos due to what a large segment of the people say is that the security forces intrude on the public that rejects the security forces seizing people's money and suppressing them with excessive force. Nigeria represents a rare case of missed opportunities for a country that has all the human and economic potential and a distinguished geographical location to be in the category of applicants, but the precariousness of social formation made it a handicapped country plunged into violence, terrorism, corruption, and crime, and thus sank into the swamp of chronic backwardness. The large, wealthy, suspended African country has switched between military rule and civilian rule. But the military often returned to power through elections and in civilian clothes. General Olusegun Obasanjo, and after him General Muhammad al-Bukhari, were the most prominent military men who ruled the country with civilian suits. Nigeria, which possesses enormous